Buenos dias, Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Here goes another one. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Like a what? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Like a torta with a snack habit. Baya. Hey, I get all into it, right? In a Menudo style and direct fashion, you guys see the thumbnail. What the hell is Gunner gonna talk about here? Chicago Norteno. Stop it. Just stop it. There is none, right? They're gonna say from Chicago. Or is there? One never knows, does one, right? But I'm about to give you guys some knowledge you can't get in college, some real shit, some real life things that happen. See, when you're from a Varrio, you're from a hood, whatever you're from, there's transplants. More than meets the eye. Orale, people that come from other cities, other gangs, other states that move into a Varrio and get embraced. They get accepted, you know, and they start to rock. Now, I've had a couple of these people that have come into my neighborhood, my Varrio, and it was all love. You know, some people was like, nah, I can't do nothing for you, man. I can't do nothing for I just wasn't biting that bullet. I just wasn't down with that, right? But in some cases, a lot of these individuals display the characteristics of a homeboy, of a real one, man. Vatos that are on a whole different level. You know, every state thinks differently. Every city has their own swag and their own sway, right? And the way they get down. Not everybody is exactly the same. Now, everybody's brown or everybody's black or Woods brother or whatever the case may be. Guard! We're all the same. You are not like us. We're not like you. But at the same time, you know, the mentality, the education, the way vatos carry themselves, the get down is much different. You know, if you go to the city of San Jose, they move differently out there compared to Merced. You know, if you go down the street to Modesto, it's a little bit different. Tulare County, it's a little bit more Pachuco style, right? You go to LA, you already know the wiggle. San Diego, the wiggleization is real. Everywhere is different, yet we all present ourselves and look the same. Now, this is a story about a vato from Chicago that moved to the city of Merced and started to do his thing. And I mean, started to do his thing at the highest of levels, right? Now, I remember meeting this guy, and I was already on my way out the door. I was already getting old. I was already looked at as an older homeboy. I was already what they would call washed up, right? You're done, Holmes. You're getting old. You're not really putting in work for the neighborhood. You're not doing that. You're doing the familia thing. Continue to do the family thing. But I still was representing. I still was presentable when it came to the hood, to the Varrio. I still had love, right? And I remember seeing this individual, and he had a different type of haircut. I remember that was the first thing I figured out on him. I seen him with the younger homeboys. I was like, who's that right there? See that right there? I don't know that right though. I don't, that right there, that haircut, that's different. I had never seen this new haircut called the Shag or the Swag or whatever the fuck it's called nowadays that everyone has, especially Northerners. I had never seen this. Okay, so when I seen him, he had that tight little fade with that long drop in the back. I started to reminisce and recognize and remember back in our days in the 90s, we had that. We had that Shag going on. I don't know if a lot of you guys remember. I don't know about down south how it was, but up north, a lot of us had that Shag. We used to wear a hat like this. Watch out. Back in the days, right? Old school ones remember that shit, right? We used to be doing that. And it's like they're bringing everything back. One thing I do know is everything comes full circle. What used to be is now, and what is now is going to be used to be soon. And that's just how it is, right? So I see this vato, and I'm looking at him. He's with the younger homeboys. I'm like, watch out, who's that vato? And I'm not going to say his name here because he's still conducting himself in a Norteno fashion, but they were like, hey, that's a homeboy. He moved from Chicago. He's from Chicago and shit. I said, Chicago? To what degree of Norteños are in Chicago? They said, nah. He moved from Chicago. He was representing this, but he came over here and the embracement was real. He's a righteous ass homeboy. So I got to conversating with him, and real life, real talk, he was down with the cause, right? He knew a lot more about the cause than a lot of these youngsters that I was getting at that grew up right there, born and raised generational knew. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and act like, you know, his education was up to par. Mine wasn't even up to that type of par. Everybody knows a little some about a lot of some that someone teaches them. But at the end of the day, he sure knew a lot, right? So I'm getting at him, picking his brain, picking his mind. He starts to tell me about Chicago and the wiggle out there. Now, we all know Chicago, okay? Those that haven't even been there have heard about Chirac, stand up. They're different. They're broad daylight type people. They do it wherever they do it. They get down at a whole different level. The way that their gangs are classified and the way that their wiggle is totally different from California. The stilo is different. They fight amongst each other for different reasons than we would say in Northern and Southern California. You know, the line is drawn, and traditionally we've been going at it in a Northern and Southern fashion. And of course, a lot of the things dwell or are about what goes on behind those walls. It's leaked out to Califas as a whole, and boop, boop, boop. Vatos are fighting each other that they don't even know, just because that's what they're told to do or that's what they assume they have to do. Nowadays, it's a little bit different, but back in my days, if we see a Vato wearing all blue, we were going to get off just based on orderly. We were Giants, not Dodgers, right? Any little thing counted. Benz, I'm spitting all over the place, just the way it is. Now, Tripali, something real. Now, when it comes to Chicago, I can't sit here and tell you the politics and tell you why they get off. You know, I know there's Latin Kings, there's Saint Disciples, there's Kings of Funk. I don't know what they have out here, no disrespect. But at the end of the day, Chicago is definitely very gang related and very active in their communities with chop things. That's just how it's been. So this guy moving into our community brought a certain swag. He brought a killer instinct, a killer mentality. You know, he brought, I wouldn't call it situational gangbanging, but his situation was real. Now, I asked the homeboys, you know, how come is this guy kicking it with the homeboys, right? And they say, hey, he moved in the neighborhood. He's seen us. We started to hang around him. He's good. He wanted to be from the hood, so we put him on. I said, well, where were my antennas when this was happening? They said, man, you an old head, bro. You don't count anymore anyways. It's up to the youngsters to progress and proceed when it comes to Varrios. They're basically doing their thing. They're putting on for their generation or whatever, whoever they see fit. And I understand that's the way it works. You know, back in our days, if we were going to put someone on, we all asked each other if this guy was cool. He was kind of like a biker gang. He hung around a little bit. He was a hang around. You know what I mean? Then we were prospecting. He was prospecting. And eventually after he got off and put a little work in, you know, okay, you're on, right? He was in the hood. But most of these guys, you know, they do it differently. Different cliques, different, I guess you would not call them tiers, but different levels of the game. You know, youngsters, different, you know, generations, they do it different. Different cliques, right? We didn't have cliques in my neighborhood. It wasn't like the tiny locals or the tiny gangsters or the peewee gangsters. It was nothing like that in my area. It was more so dead end. That's it, homes. That's where you were from. But there were different little groups, subgroups of homeboys that hung around with each other. Me, I was different. I used to hang around with a little bit of everyone, but I did have my subgroup of righteous homeboys that I fucked with and funked with all at the same time, right? You say that 3 times fast, that's it. Anyway, so this guy was hanging around with the youngsters. He was cool. He started to, his swag, I noticed, started to change the mentality and the way that the other homeboys dressed. I started noticing a lot of homeboys with the same haircut. And it tripped me out because I started to notice homeboys from Modesto, homeboys from Bakersfield. There's no northerners in Bakersfield. There is actually. Vatos in Tulare County. Everyone started to have this swag and this shag haircut. And they started to resemble these gang members from New York City, from Chicago, from Detroit. These East Coast and Midwest gang members. They started to resemble them. Now, I don't know, and I'm not going to say that this was the actual one that put that on the map, this guy in the Valle, but I know in my town, in my city, he was that one. Homeboy started to dress and act accordingly, act like him, right? Now, I'm not going to say that was a bad thing. You're supposed to have your own flavor. Califas has always rocked traditionally the way they rock, but they've taken swag from a little bit of everyone. That's like Merced, homes. You know, we're not the Bay Area. The Bay Area is not the Valle. So you're going to get a whole different swag and a whole different movement in the Bay. The Bay's a trip. You'll have Nortenos and Sureños in the Bay Area that actually look similar. You can't tell a fucking difference, right? You can't tell. They're all rocking Golden State, Giants, A's, all things of that nature, right? But at the same time, they're representing a different cause. Hey, don't ask me too many questions. I won't tell you too many lies. I don't know exactly why they do it like that or exactly how that happened, but it's just the environment that you grow up in and how you get down. You go into Oakland, you're going to have a lot of Northerners say, what's up, blood? What's up, fam? What's up, Rogue in EPA? What's up, cuz? They're just going to do that. And it's not because they're trying to be black or they're trying to be brothers. Because I don't know how you try to be anyone. You either are or you ain't. That's the way I come. That's the way I was laced and educated. You just either are or you're not, period. But that's just the environment they grow up in. Those are the words that they use. You know, that's why, like, when people ask me, how do you feel about using the N-word? How do you feel about Mexicans or Norteños, predominantly, since that's what I was, using the N-word? I'm not for it. I don't agree. I don't like it. I don't like any type of derogatory word that's going to disrespect a man and his people, right? I don't care for it, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to stop it. If you choose to say it, you choose to say it, eh? You know what I mean? If we're out, I say, hey, have some class and have some respect for those around you, Please don't say that around me because I don't want the fucking repercussions for your mouth falling on my plate because then I'm going to have to handle business on something I truly didn't believe in the first place. So please, porfas, don't use that word around me. I don't like it. You know what I mean? I'm brown. I'm going to stick to brown things. And that's just the way it is. I got nothing but love for my brothers, but I'm not going to say anything that they take, as a demeaning word towards them. Period. Even if they say, nah, it's all good, brother. You like a brother, man. You could say it. You could say it. Yeah, I can, but I won't. That's it. That's just me. Pensa na tira. You know, I'm not going to slip up, say it one time. You ain't never going to hear me say it, never heard me say it, and I ain't going to say it. That's what we're going to do. Now, look, we're going to push. One thing I'll say for sure is I have my beliefs. So when I'm meeting this guy from Chicago for the first time, I'm seeing his swag. I'm seeing how the little homeboys are gravitating towards him and changing up their style. Did I think something was wrong with it? Traditional, being from California? Act yourself, act accordingly, act to your environment. But at the same time, I could see the stilo. Because the stilo didn't just explode right there. It started to explode everywhere. Okay, so let me tell you this guy's story. So he comes into the hood, right? And there's been several others. I had a homeboy that moved from New York. He transplanted. A homeboy that Fresno. Yes, I will be telling his story one day because he was a different type of guy. He had everybody all shook up. Orale, Fresno, stand up. He wasn't a perro chato. He was no gang member. He just was from the city of Fresno. He definitely moved into Merced, started representing them 2 pistols with the missile and just did his thing, right? But I've had different homeboys from different areas that have moved in. Homeboy from Sanjo that grew up there. Next thing you know, man, he's in Merced representing the pistoleros as well, right? That's just how it is. Now, this Volta comes in, but with a whole different type of mentality, with that Chicago mentality, that anybody get it at any time mentality. Now, I'm not going to say they're different from California in the way they rock, because there's hitters from everywhere and people that just don't give a fuck if it's 1 in the PM or 1 in the AM. They'll get off where they're mad at. But this guy's whole mentality was kill or be killed and kill more, some more, and some more, and a whole lot more, right? So anyways, he didn't last too long on the calles. And I seen it coming. I told the little homie, get over here. See that what right there? See this look? Look at this look. That's called the eye of the tiger. That vato, even when he sleeps, I say he has the eye of the tiger. That vato's different. So if you want this is going to be kicking it, watch out, because his style, his stilo that he's bringing with him from Chirac is different, bro. They're used to different types of gangbanging. They're used to different type of war mentality. But they're playing chess, not checkers. So watch out, right? Of course, it didn't take long. He got caught up in a case, a murder case. That was that. But in that meantime, in between time, he brought a lot of swag to the valley. I remember I seen him go kick it with homeboys from Motown. I seen him go kick it with homeboys from Turlock, homeboys from Paton, homeboys from Dainuba, everywhere. You know, wherever the homeboys would wiggle and go kick it with little young northerners at, this Vato took his sway and his swag over there. By the time he left, Vatos were growing their shag out. He had a very, very good game. He had very good mentality as far as lacing the homeboys up. He was one of the baddest, righteous, most vicious Norteños I ever met that didn't start off that way. You see, not everybody starts off as a true believer in the cause. Not everybody starts off laced up. That's why I hate when people say, oh man, they're a product of who they were laced up by. Nah, man, this Volta got off the bus, like I said, straight off the Greyhound, moved in with his sister, started hanging out with the homeboys on the corner and knew more about the Norte than they did and dedicated himself to that. Okay, I used to call him the Chicago Norteño because he was definitely from Chicago, and I used to like to kick it with him and listen to what he had to say. That motherfucker was smart, eh? You know what I mean? And he was down. Okay, and one thing that you look for in a Varrio, and these are the people that hold sway, these are the people that find themselves in leadership positions, it's not always the downness, because sometimes the downness is the clumsiest. It's not always the gangsterish, because sometimes the gangsterish is not smart enough, right? Can't even read or write, and he just knows how to pop and pipe, right? And that's real. But here's some knowledge you can't get in college. The quiet ones, the ones that are really dedicated, those are the ones that you have to look out for. Them are the ones that you're like, all right, I see you, I see you. And he came with the mentality where he didn't push it on people. He just let people know straight up exactly what time it was. Look, I'm still representing Chicago, but I'm representing that 2 pistols in the middle. I said, ooh, wait, right? That's what I'm talking about. Now, a lot of the youngsters that looked up to this guy and felt some type of way about him, there were some that were like, nah, we can't let no guy from a different state come and dictate our program. But see, one thing about me and the way I was raised and the way I was brought up and the way I think is it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter as long as you carry yourself with respect and you carry yourself with the realness and you're really dedicated. That's all that should matter. You know, I hate when I see people from Texas disrespecting California or people from California disrespecting Texas or people from wherever, the Midwest, that are tripping. Oh, no, we're not like that. We don't get down like that. Who gives a fuck how you think or what you get down with, right? Where everyone's always going to be different, bro. I'm not going to belittle you for how you move, and you shouldn't belittle us for how we move. We all have different flavors, all have different styles. We all are products of our environment, and we're raised different. That's just the way it's going to be. Now, this guy gets caught up, but let me tell you about a little something between us. The wind's blowing. Bang, bang. We'll hold, right? So I'm chilling with this guy one day. We're at my tia's pad. We're in the front. And I grew up in an area called Beechwood. For those of you that don't know, the Beechwood area, Merced, is in between the Atwater and Merced. It's its own island, I guess, right? But a lot of the Norteños out of Merced, grew up in that area at one point in time. Not grew up, but they lived there. Everybody's lived in Beechwood. Everyone's lived in the wood, right? So I grew up in that area. So I'm right there at my tia's house. I've been staying with my tia at the time. Just got at the pen. So when I meet the youngster, right? So he took a liking to me. So he would come over and we chop game. You know what I mean? He'd ask me about the prison system quite extensively. He wanted to know exactly the get down because he said, I said, well, why? He said, because I'm going to be gone pretty soon because I pistol up, right? I said, all right, cool. And I remember me telling him, bro, what makes you so dedicated to the Northern Colorado? Like, I understand, bro, but you're from Chicago. At the end of the day, you guys move differently. He says, bro, the love that I've shown out here, right from the gate, I don't get back home. Back home, bro, you know what I mean? I got to look over my shoulder. I got to be on it, man. Motherfuckers don't like me just by the way I look or the way I act. He said, out here, man, I didn't get looked at no certain type of way. I had a different type of haircut. Always blended in. They weren't trying to be like me, man, and I wasn't trying to be like them. We were just able to be ourselves, and this is where I truly feel my cause is. This is what I truly wanted. I'm dedicated to and rock with. To this day, I remember that conversation, and I told him, never be something that you think you have to be. Always be yourself. And he said, this is me, and it truly was him, and it truly is him now. Just because you come from somewhere else doesn't mean you can't find your calling or something that you're. Now, we're talking gangs, okay? Let's keep it real. I'm not a gang member. I'm no longer part of that life, but I lived that life for a long time, so I know the intricacies and the details that go into that. I know what makes your heart pump, what doesn't. I know the fun things about it and the bad things about it. Because it's not all fun and it's not all bad. See, people that have never been part of that, they're like, you guys are riff-raff, you guys are, come on. No, it's not like that. The canalismo, the embracement, the love that is shown for homeboys that went through some of the same struggles and grew up in the same area, man, that's a bond unshakable and unbreakable. And to see the wiggleization and the patterns of life, the way life takes you. Some people become family men. Some people get good jobs and they actually become fucking your next probation officer. Damn, he used to be a homie from the hood. Some homeboys end up doing life in prison. At the end of the day, we all grew up in that same area. We all had the same opportunities. What we chose to do in our life is how it ended up, period. He's sitting down doing life in prison right now. Okay? And that's because he chose what to do. But he brought a swag to the neighborhood and a swag to the Valle, those around him, that so far cannot be surpassed. I see a lot of these vatos with the same haircut, and I wonder if he was ever in contact with them or that's just the style now. I don't know, man. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I always think back and reflect on him. I like the little dude, man. I thought what he was pushing, the narrative he was rocking, the way he presented himself was as righteous as they come. I've been around a lot of Norteños from YA to prison, I've been around dudes that I can't even talk about right now because they were at such a high level, or vatos that continue to be. And that doesn't mean I'm better than anyone else or I've done this or I've done that, because we're not here to speak on that. What we're here to talk about is he's one of the truest vatos in heart, cora, and mentality that I ever met. And he was from Chicago, humps. He wasn't born and raised in Califas. He didn't have that California swag. He brought his Chicago flavor over and continued to be like that, but did represent a California gang. Now you ask yourself, how would it be in the reverse? If I was to go to Chicago, if I was active, I'm not going to sit here and fake and pretend like I'm active, because I'm not, man. I'm a grown man. I'm active in my children's life. That's it. I ain't got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm not trying to portray to be some hardcore gang member on YouTube when I'm really not that, right? I'm just a man. But I'll tell you, if I went in back in the days when I did have that mentality to Chicago, would I be embraced? Would it be different? One never knows, does one? I know there's something about this California water that got motherfuckers sipping, right? There's some that, it's not that everybody wants to be from Califas, so I'm not going to say that. But once you get here, man, you take a big old gulp and you already know what it is, right? And that's just it, So to that guy, man, I'll maybe get more extensive into his story and exactly how it went down. He caught his case. But it was very unfortunate, man. And that was a big shot for me, because I remember thinking, man, this is the next one. This is the next level to keep the shit going for the Varrio. And then just like that, you know what I mean? When you got that mentality, man, that Chicago shit's different. Them vatos are used to doing shit right there in the wide open, orderly, wide earth. It's different. Anyways, with that being said, ain't nothing cool about being a gang member. Ain't nothing cool about being too cool for the radio. It's all about your family, man. What you're going to do. These are just stories I tell you to tell you. You know what it is. Entertainment. With that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. This is the double up. One afternoon, it gets done. One afternoon, the double up. Bang, bang. The gun. Damn, that vato from Chicago, that fool was crazy. We try to get detailed.